Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to see the posts in the chat and all the wonderful place that you are coming to us from. I am one of the co-chairs of Food Secure Canada, and my other hat is that of the Executive Director of the Territorial Agri-Food Association up here in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. This means I'm connecting to you today with appreciation from the traditional lands of the Yellowknives Dene and the North Slave Métis. It is important to live with respect on the land, and we live in peace and friendship today, or strive to live in peace and friendship today and every day. The Food Secure Canada office is located on traditional and unceded territory. Tiohtià:ke is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations, including the Kanien'kehá:ka, the Huron-Wendat, the Abenaki, and the Anishinaabe. It is in respect for the ties to the past, present, and future that we recognize the ongoing relationships between First Peoples and others in the Montreal community where the Food Secure Canada office is located. We acknowledge and are committed to learning and listening and doing the work of reconciliation. Personally, and in my work, I reflect on the following questions to guide my actions and encourage others to consider this as they make choices as well. What are our obligations to the people who first inhabited this land? How can we be good guests here? How can we support Indigenous self-determination? How can our relationships with the land and water and with non-human beings and Indigenous peoples support future generations? And we ask of our community to hold us accountable and to help us grow with us towards justice on the land and in the food system here in Canada. Today, my job is to keep our meeting moving forward smoothly while respecting your time. And we hope to make up for our slight delay and honor your time by keeping on track and finishing as we intend. I believe now my board colleague, Brian Beardy, will help us ground our meeting in respect and intention with his opening reflections.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Byron. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. I'm coming into you with my phone, so I'm trying to do the video too. And I am.
I've just sent a prompt that might help.
Where? There you go. Can you see me now? Hey, there you go. I see myself. As you can see, I'm commuting right now. I'm always on the go. And the West Vietnam, but when I get my baby, big car, when I watch it now, I don't know me and the way I'm going to go in my copy. Anyway, and na kumya is mga gabi yung kinagapitap na kinagapit na Canada guys kade kaya tebo sa muna that is thinking much mo itap na ko which doesn't the make way but kuna mabis meet him mabis mama witan primitul ang may ginin is kagwe just briefly, I just introduced myself, and I am here and grateful here to be here in my speaking to you in my language of the Anishinaabeg of the Island Lake area of North Manitoba. I come to you right now and commuting from the Anishinaabe Nation of Roseau River here in southern Manitoba. So my work takes me to a lot of different communities within Manitoba. We just left our community. This community visiting and doing some work that we do food work. So I have my team here with me and they're listening and definitely a pleasure. I'm acknowledging each and every one of you across the country of Canada and I bid you a good day and good evening, good afternoon, wherever time zone you may be in. And definite pleasure to always acknowledge the people that work and have like-mindedness within the food work that we do. I just wanted to say again, a big honor for me to speak to colleagues, to speak to like-minded, to speak to whomever you may be with the work that we're doing in relation to food. Our food, Kamicha Manan, is what we call work in our department. We've changed it from simply food security into the word Gimichamanan, which translates to our food. And why that is because our food is basically from birth to death. It is what we have and it is what we do. And the different transitions, the different ways we consume food and different ceremonies, the spirited connectedness with food to our land, to our language, and to our daily lives. That is the holistic approach that our department here at Four Arrows RHA in Manitoba uses and the concepts of our traditional teachings, culture, and history. We can never forget history, what was almost taken from our people as Indigenous members of our homelands, and with the intrusion and of concepts of European that almost wiped out the cultural and identity of our people through force, through, we of course will never forget that, but I myself always say that I'm lucky that I'm able to still speak my language. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that and also to share it with my people, my children, my grandchildren. So again, I am thankful for that, and with that, I think definitely always say my thank you for the mornings that are given to me and for the time that I'm spending here on Mother Earth with such as yourselves and family. And we must not forget where we come from and who we are, and always acknowledge who we are, where we come from, be it Asian, be it Black community. We are people, we are relation. As we always hear, you can cut our skins, we bleed the same blood. So it's just the cover that's different, and we must acknowledge us as human beings, not the different races that we have. Yes, we have different belief systems, but all in all, it's on the same direction. It's up, and it's with Creator, whomever we may believe in. So again, from my humble self, I bid you welcome and hope we have a good session within this community of the CF Food Security Canada, FSC Canada, and I'll stop there because I can keep going and going, and we're kind of coming to a crossroads right now. Literally, a train. So we're gonna stop. We're gonna hear something. So again, thank you very much, and I do appreciate again for having me. I'll help me with Ajay.
Thank you very much, Byron, for both inspiring and motivating us and grounding us in the reality of where we've come from and where we need to get to. And for me, the reminder that our food is the connecting point for all of us is so powerful, and also sets the tone for moving forward, as in, we got to get this business of the meeting done, but then we can talk about our food and the passions that unite us and the projects that we're undertaking. Thank you very much for taking the time to set us off in a good way. In this spirit, I would like to officially open our AGM. It is 2:31 and we are ready to go. It looks where are my notes here? Our communication coordinator, Charlotte, will be taking the minutes as we move through the meeting, which will then be put forward for approval at next year's AGM by the voting membership of the organization. For compliance with our bylaws, the official notice of the members' meeting was given on January 31st to all eligible members and was extended to the general public. A reminder was also sent on February 20th, accompanied by a package that included the draft minutes of 22-23 AGM, the audited financial statements of the fiscal year 22-23. So we have notice, we have participation, and as per bylaw 420, we need to have quorum. And quorum at any meeting of the members shall consist of a majority of the executive of the Board of Directors of Food Secure Canada and the lesser of either 10% of the members entitled to vote at the meeting or 25 members entitled to vote at the meeting Individual and organization members in good standing each have 1 vote, and associate members do not have a vote. And I'm very pleased to say that the quorum is confirmed. Thank you very much, team, for establishing that. We are ready to go forward. So I would like to ask for a mover and a seconder to put forward the motion for the adoption of the agenda. You could raise your hand using the feature at the bottom of the Zoom room.
I put forth the motion.
Okay, so we have that moved. That was Nettie, was it? And
We
it
have
looks
Richard as a seconder.
perfect. Does anyone want to add anything to the agenda? Any changes? Okay, if you need extra time as we move forward, please just make a note in the chat or raise your hand and we'll make sure that you have enough time. So if not, then I guess we have a resolution. Be it resolved to adopt the draft agenda as proposed. And do we have consensus? So please use your chat to indicate if you are in support of this motion. And for people on the phone, you will need to unmute and we'll be able to hear what you're saying. And if there, yeah, I like the hands, the thumbs. And if there's anybody who wishes to abstain or block the motion, please let us know.
And will you just move to the next slide, please?
Okay, I'm not able to tell who is on the phone. So is there a way to?
I don't think we have anyone on the phone
Okay,
right now.
fair enough. Okay, so we have a stand aside in the chat. Otherwise, it looks like we have consensus and we are able to move forward. So we have it.
Charlotte, is that confirmed? Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We will move on to the next order of the day. And this time we need a mover and seconder to put forward a motion for the adoption of the agenda, which we just did.
For
So-
the meeting minutes.
For the meeting minutes. Thank you. Clearly, I can't read my own notes. So we need a mover and a seconder for this motion to be it resolved to adopt the minutes of the February 8th, 2023 annual general meeting. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
I move the motion forward.
Okay,
I second it.
thank you. Does anyone who is present want to add anything to the minutes? Any changes or amendments? Okay, if not, I'll ask for a decision on the resolution as appearing on your screen right now. We're looking for consensus, so please make note in the chat if you are stepping aside, abstaining, or wanting to block the motion, or otherwise in support of the motion.
We have a Richard confirmed. Nettie in the chat. Natalie. Bob. And Adeline. Phil. And Charles. So we are good to move forward.
Thank you very much. We are resolved to adopt the minutes of the February 8th, 2023 annual general meeting by consensus. I think the next item on our agenda is to just share a little bit about what the board has been up to this last year. It has been, from the board's perspective, a bit of a time of challenge, as it has been for many of us across the country. We have been no different. We lost some of our more experienced board members last year, and along with that, a depth of organizational insight. But this has also allowed us to bring in new members and helped ignite our motivation moving forward. So as with everything, when one thing happens, we have the reciprocal side that that happens as well. Our focus was and continues to be on good governance and an improvement in communications and reporting, both amongst the board, with our membership, and with the staff at Food Secure Canada. Within our board, we're committed to a culture of performance and reconciliation, and most importantly, accountability. And we continue to work to implement new plans and procedures with our co-EDs. It has been a time of learning, and sometimes those learning isn't always as smooth as we wanted, but we are making forward motion, and we are all committed to the work of Food Secure Canada and to being the best we can be to support that work and inspire that work in whatever way we can. We are very lucky, and I use the word lucky, but I really mean appreciative, to work with the great team of staff at Food Secure Canada, not the least of which are our co-executive directors, Marissa Alexander and Wade Throg. They've been invaluable to the success of Food Secure Canada. Certainly, we would not be in the position where we are today and the many successes that I'm sure they will be reporting on if we did not have them with their steady hand at the helm. There have been ups and downs with the board, with the organization, with all aspects of the work that we've been doing, but those two have kept us going straight and steady with forward motion. And I certainly can speak on behalf of the board that we are extremely appreciative, and we will continue to strive to do better for you, to support you in the way that you need. It is through their hard work and their commitment, caring, and connection that not only are all of us on the board that are showing up to work, but personally, I can say it's what keeps me coming back and keeps me wanting to make sure that we support and encourage you in whatever way we can. And I know I'm saying that in a public forum, but I also want to direct it to you both personally, that it is our fundamental commitment to support you and the organization as we move forward. So that is our small update on what the board's been up to. It's been a lot of internal development, but Wade and Marissa, I'd like to turn it over to you for your updates.
Thank you, Janet. You're gonna make me cry. We haven't even started. Jeez, give me a chance. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be here, and we're really excited to be able to share all the amazing work our staff has been doing for the past year. We're super proud of the way that they have taken on all of the challenges and ups and downs this year. Nous avons tout beaucoup appris cette année et nous sommes impatients de continuer à utiliser ces leçons pour renforcer notre collaboration à l'avenir.
To start with, it is worth noting that our strength depends on the people involved. And for that, we are graced with a wonderful group of staff, directors, and supporters, many of which are here today. There were some significant changes to our staffing in the last year with the addition of myself, Marissa, and Ken Bayer. During this time, we also had several staff move on to other opportunities, including Amélie Lévesque-Martel, Gustave Le, Omar El-Shakawi, Juliette Clochard, Maya Lewis, and Afua Asantewa. We want to thank them for the contribution of their energy to our work and look forward to future areas of collaboration with them. It was a great pleasure to get to know them and work with them, and you can see some of the adventures we had as a team in the photos here. La transition vers notre nouveau site web a été une entreprise de longue date qui s'est finalement concrétisée l'été dernier. De très nombreuses personnes ont contribué à faire de ce projet une réalité et cela n'a pas été facile. C'est pourquoi nous sommes extrêmement reconnaissants à tous ceux qui ont contribué. Il reste encore du travail à faire et nous vous remercions d'avance pour votre patience.
Nous avons la chance d'être invités à participer de diverses manières à de nombreux événements axés sur l'alimentation tout au long de l'année. Voici des photos de quelques-uns de ces événements. Next slide. The Indigenous and African Canadian Food Sovereignty Caucuses have been working together for a few years now with the help of our previous staff, Afua and Maya. All their work, collaboration, and shared learning culminated in an in-person gathering in Bella Bella, BC, on the traditional territory of the Heiltsuk First Nation. Despite the event being postponed due to the wildfires in BC, representatives from both caucuses traveled from all over a few months later to come together. There were many learnings that I, as a Black woman, as well as the co-executive director of FSC, am very thankful to be able to witness and benefit from. One of the main things to be taken from this project is the importance and value of bringing BIPOC voices together to talk about the strengths, values, and challenges of food and our food systems. Representation really matters, and at FSC, we will continue to prioritize holding space for diverse voices in the food movement. Next slide, please, Ken. We also want to highlight some of the interesting projects we are working on this year. One project was focused on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals through 3 action areas: healthy school food, Indigenous food sovereignty, and equitable access. If you want to learn more, we have our final presentation, including guest speakers for each of those action areas, happening directly after our AGM, so please stick around. Nous avons également pu soutenir Agriculture et Agroalimentaire Canada dans son renouvellement de la politique alimentaire pour le Canada en engageant 140 sujets ou enthousiastes du mouvement alimentaire sur divers sujets. Les groupes de discussion ont abordé divers sujets tels que les pertes et gaspillages alimentaires, le renforcement des systèmes alimentaires autochtones, l'alimentation à l'école, les communautés résilientes, la sécurité alimentaire, le groupe francophone et la gouvernance de la politique alimentaire.
We're really excited about some upcoming projects in the coming year. With the support of Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada over the next couple of months, we will be highlighting some of the amazing sustainable agricultural practices happening across Turtle Island. We will also be strengthening ties with regional food movement groups. Nous nous réjouissons également du grand projet avec le Bureau de la consommation qui mettra en lumière les questions d'accessibilité dans les domaines de la sécurité des revenus, de la recherche des profits et des alternatives à la concentration des entreprises. Ce projet sera réalisé en partenariat avec d'autres groupes tels que Critères qui travaillent sur des enjeux liés.
Finally, again, we are so honored to have been able to work with and learn from all of the passionate FSC staff, directors, partners, members, and organizations that make Food Secure Canada what it is today. A few things we are really excited for this upcoming year is learning from our incoming staff members, continuing to grow as individuals, as a team, and as an organization, continuing to partner with unique, diverse, and enthusiastic peoples in the food movement, attending more events and collaborating with fascinating organizations, and of course, more gatherings centered around delicious food. Thank you for a good year, and here's to an even better one. Thanks, Janet. Oh, you're just on mute, Janet.
My apologies. I promised myself I wouldn't do that. We are, I believe, moving on to a report on the Coalition from Healthy School Foods from Debbie Field.
Great. Well, it's great to be here and great to talk about the Coalition for Healthy School Food. Next slide. So we've been trying to get a commitment from the federal government a few years in a row now, and we're once again poised to hopefully see some money in budget 2024. Our pre-budget submission is asking the government to honor its commitment, which was the Liberals' pre-election commitment of $1 billion over 5 years, with a minimum of $200 million to flow this year. The affordability crisis means that, of course, food is such a big issue, and for the programs who are delivering the school food programs, a third of the schools in the country, of course, they're suffering just the same we all are when we go to the grocery store, and particularly with fresh fruit and vegetables and healthy food. We're also calling for a separate infrastructure fund of $50 million a year, and to negotiate independent school food policy agreements with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis leaders, so that, of course, we have a good funded programs. Next slide. What's interesting is there's massive public support for this. Breakfast Club of Canada commissioned Meru Public Opinion last year, and 84% of Canadians want a national school food program. And 77% are disappointed that the government hasn't done it, and 92% of Liberal supporters are interested in implementing a national program. It's a very bizarre situation where there's really widespread public opinion, widespread backbencher opinion. What there isn't is a commitment from Minister Freeland. That's why we're stuck, and the austerity budget is what they're talking about. So we're trying, as we're going, even in these next few weeks, to see what we can do to change that. Next slide. What's very interesting is that we now know that there's 232 million a year annually coming in from the provinces and territories. So the 200 million that would come from the federal government isn't a new social program that's very expensive, but would be the match for this that is already happening. And, we really say to the government, and we say to the Liberals, this would be a popular thing for you. You could use a little bit of good publicity right now, and that it would enhance the work they've already done on the child care accords and also on the child tax benefit. Next slide. This is just a chart that shows you what's coming in every year from the provinces and territories. And you'll see also that this includes municipal funding, and there's quite a big number here, 17 million a year that's coming in from the city of Toronto. And there's just been a massive increase here as well. Next slide. This is just an example of what is happening all across the country as more and more governments commit to a universally accessible program. So BC, of course, had this amazing 214 million over 3 years, or 71 million a year. And it's great to see people today here from Newfoundland and from Manitoba, because it's Newfoundland and Manitoba who've just made big commitments, those provincial governments, about 10 million a year in Newfoundland to a universally accessible lunch program. And most recently, Wab Kinew, Premier of Manitoba, an amazing visionary statement that isn't yet reflected here, but is coming with an additional 30 million. Next slide. So we're also very excited to invite you to join us for the Great Big Crunch in the month of March, anytime, and the virtual Great Big Crunch. We'll have Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, Suds, joining us for the crunch. And so it'd be great to see some of you there. So advocacy is always an exciting and complicated process. The 270 plus members of the coalition and 130 plus endorsers are busy trying to make sure the federal government does something great. And even if it doesn't, and we have to wait for another year with the federal government, the work that's happening at the provinces and territories and the grassroots sharing of information is itself a wonderful process. Thanks very much.
Thank you for a wonderful update from both of you. It is always encouraging to see the work that is happening. And despite the challenges in moving forward, some of these really important agendas, certainly to see that forward progress is being made. I have to admit, I'm very sad to see that the Northwest Territories isn't even on that list of the supplemental additions. And certainly our new government just announced their priorities and we didn't see school foods on that list. So we are right beside you advocating for this and on board with it. But thank you both to Wade and Marissa and Debbie for updating us, for giving us a quick snapshot into the important work that you're doing, or that we're doing, I suppose, and for advocating on behalf of that connection between food and people. We call it food security, we can call it our food, and we can call it the reality of what connects all of us together. So thank you again for sharing that, for updating us, and helping us join in with the push for what needs to happen. I think the next thing on our list is to talk a little bit about voting procedures. I think that's the next slide. And we've kind of already jumped into this with voting on our minutes and our agenda. But just a reminder that as an association, we use a consensus decision-making model with respect to all matters, except those requiring a special resolution under the Act. So that the idea behind this is that each organization and individual member has the right to exercise one vote. You can either support decisions as they're moving forward, you can step aside or abstain from a decision, or block a motion if the mission of the association is at stake or is in consideration. In the case where you feel the need to block a motion, we ask that you don't take it lightly. It is something that is always there and available to you, though, to ensure that we maintain that consensus decision-making model. In cases where a clear majority of votes favor a proposal, but no consensus has been reached, the chair of the meeting is obliged to make up to 3 attempts to find consensus so that we don't skip over it lightly. But if no consensus is achieved following those 3 attempts, the issue will pass if not less than 3/4 of the membership present and eligible to vote are in support. Voting at membership meetings shall be by a show of hands, as we ask. And if we are doing it electronically, as we are doing it today, you may share your support electronically. And I believe that you all have the instructions or know how to do that, as we've passed 2 motions already. So that's just a reminder as we are heading into another decision-making time. We will be transitioning to the report from the treasurer. Our treasurer, our board treasurer this year is Nettie Boivin, who will present the treasurer's report with our auditors. The treasurer's report has been approved by the board.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nettie Boivin, and I'm acting treasurer. So first, our auditor is going to give us a summary, and there will be time, I believe, for questions, and then this will be followed by my giving a projected overview of 2024, the end of the fiscal year. If you can't hear me, let me know, or if I speak too quickly, especially for translators, let me know. Okay, and I'd like to pass it along to our auditor, Chris, to give us a summary.
Hi, everyone. So it's just asked to give a quick presentation to everybody in terms of the audit approach and then the financial statements. So very high level from an audit point of view, just getting rid of some technicalities. It's a risk-based audit and a lot of substantive testing. So what does it mean? It means examining a lot of details and support that goes into the payments of anything that goes out. So I want to, before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to thank Wade and Marissa and their staff for all their help and cooperation during my audit, and because it was very much appreciated. So I'll start with that, and then I'll try to get into the very high level, and to keep this going, an overview of the statement of financial position and then income statement, and then field questions for myself or Nettie as we go. So in terms of the financial statements, the audit has been completed. Draft financial statement has been prepared and submitted to the board. And overall, just a very high level, balance sheet total assets remain relatively consistent. Current assets, mainly a slight swing between cash and receivables. All receivables have been collected subsequent to year end. Cash balances have been validated through bank accounts. Everything has been supported substantially. From a liability point of view, main liability, all liabilities have been paid subsequent to year end, with deferred contributions still remaining the largest one, which is really a timing difference for recognition of revenue. Again, going quickly, but trying to just keep us on pace. In terms of revenue, again, it was a strong year, which saw a lot of growth, mainly due to PFI, as well as some SDG additional revenue throughout the year. Again, keeping it very, I guess I could open the floor for questions. I'm not sure if Nettie will get into any of the details of revenue or expenses, but if there is any questions, I guess we could field them now, and I'll keep it, like I said, keep it very brief in terms of an overview.
Are there any questions from the members?
I have one. It's Mo here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not used to the deferral method. So I just was curious when I looked at the balance sheet or the P&L for the year, it shows like a much smaller number than the confirmed revenue. So I thought that what I read about deferral is that you only show what was used as an expense in that year. So does that mean that some of the larger figures, some of the larger amounts are because they're for multi-years? So that would be the People's Food Institute and the RAD Foundation, those big, large amounts. Is that why there's sort of a differential between sort of the revenue sheets and then the capturing of the year's expenses?
Correct. Generally, deferred revenue is exactly that. It's either revenue that has not been spent, or if it relates to revenue that is for the future period. So it's monies that has been received for which the expense has not been spent, so the money has not been earned. Or again, in certain cases, it's money that was received pretty much toward the end of the year, which is more for 2023, 2024 year end. I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, I'm used to deferred revenue. I just wasn't used to, I guess that I'm used to it being showing more up on a balance sheet, for example, as opposed to like a charting of that revenue. So I was just trying to understand that a little bit more.
If you're referring to the note is pretty much standard presentation. So note 7 on the financial statements gives a chart, which is pretty much a requirement for the last few years. Yeah, so that's a requirement now. Some organizations might not give as much detail. It's a choice, but the information should be presented in terms of a chart going forward.
Okay, thanks for that.
My pleasure.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I guess I can thank you, Chris, for all that information, the summary. And I'm just going to give, like you can see the information up there. So similar to the last year, 2023, FSC confirmed revenues for this fiscal year's until, August of 2024. For those who are new members, that's our year end. The major funders, were Interest Pare, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, the Office of Commissioner Affairs, Economic and Social Development Canada. And we also had funding from, of course, PFI, the Arrow Foundation, and SHAD Foundation. No expected deficits, as expenses are the same. And we don't anticipate a significant change in expenses, mainly HR kind of things. Do we have any questions regarding this information, or? I know it's a lot to take in, but that's what we did send you in advance.
This would be the time for any questions related to finances, whether it's for Chris or for Nettie. Okay,
So I guess, yeah, we can move forward and yeah.
okay, thank you very much. Thank you both for contributing. And I guess we're on to the next slide. Normally you would see in our meeting that, or not normally, I guess sometimes you would see in our meeting that this would be a time where we are introducing new board members to you. This particular year, all our board members are on longer term, have longer terms, so that we are not adding any new board members at this meeting. We are, of course, always open for others who are interested in helping us out on the board. A reminder that we are definitely a working board and that we have some time commitment requirements to be a part of the board. But if you are interested, please do feel free and reach out to us. Okay, yes, Marissa.
So sorry to interrupt. Before we go and look at your beautiful faces, I don't think we actually voted on accepting the financials because we got distracted by questions. So I just wanted us to go back to that slide and make sure we get that done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a very important reminder. So what we need is a forwarder and a forwarder.
Can we go one more slide? I think we're still not on the right slide. Yeah, okay. So, oh no, back to it should be resolved.
We need a mover and a seconder, yes.
So, be it resolved that members accept the audited financial statements for fiscal year September 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2023. Qu'il soit, oh my gosh, I'm going to try. Okay. Résolu que les membres acceptant les états financiers vérifiés pour l'exercice financier de 1 septembre 2022 au 31 août 2023. Sorry.
So do we have a mover and a seconder? You can raise your hand or put it in chat.
It looks like we have a mover and a seconder.
Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you. And is there anyone who wishes to abstain or block the motion? Please make your feelings noted either through the chat or by speaking forward. And if not, then we are seeking consensus. Do we have consensus?
We have 3 raised hands so far, a 4th person in the chat. 5th person raised hand. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And apologies for skipping over that in our eagerness to continue on. So if we can move forward in the slides, please. We are just starting to introduce the idea of the board and where we're at with the board, and introduce our very specific board members. So I introduced myself earlier as a co-chair. My colleague, Olivia Boyce, is also a co-chair, but unfortunately was not able to join us today. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I haven't seen this slide before. This is a lovely slide. So these are our board members. You see Byron, you see Nettie, Olivia, myself, Natalie, Celia, Nicola, Reagan, Larry, and Wendy, who have put in time and effort and energy to work towards furthering the goals of the organization and are committed to continue that work as we move forward. So as the co-chair of the board, I'd like to express my appreciation And thank you for all of the work that you have done to date. And I look forward to us continuing to work together. Is there any board member that would like to speak or say, make any comments to the group? That's rather putting you on the spot, isn't it? Okay, well, thank you all very much for your service, board members, for your hard work, for everybody that is presented our content to today. We are just about at the time where we wrap up the meeting, but before we do that, just a call to see if there's any questions left outstanding from any of our members for any of the presenters that you've heard from today, comments that you'd like to make, questions that you have. You're welcome to either make the message in the chat or raise your hand or speak forward if you have any questions or would like to say anything further.
It looks like we have a question from Bob and Mo.
Okay, Bob, if you could go first and then Mo.
Thank you, Bob Garson. You mentioned working with other organizations, and I'm involved as an organizer or part of many organizations: National Farmers Union, Ecological Farmers, Canadian Organic Growers, and a whole lot of other ones that I work with and organize with. And I'm just wondering if there's information on what organizations you might be consulting with. We might be able to help you, especially with the resolutions related to the federal budget. Because as I said, we're engaged on a very broad scale. I'm an agroecologist. I've been an organic regenerative farmer for over 50 years, but I work with these organizations. And we also do a lot of work on what actually influences cabinet ministers like Minister Freeland to decide what they decide. So I thought I should raise that question today to see if that's been thought of. If someone wants to communicate with me after, that's fine too. I just hope as a member we'll be able to understand how that works. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bob. It's encouraging to have representations from the farmers here as well, and the growers. Certainly that's a sector that I represent in my other job, but a key player in food security and the ability to influence. We are always more than happy to have input on how to influence. Marissa or Wade, did you have perhaps a response for Bob?
Bob, hi, it's Marissa. I just sent you my email in the chat, so I would love to continue this conversation. We are very fortunate that Wade was actually able to attend, as well as Susan, the NFU conference this year, and we learned a lot, but we are always open for further collaboration. It sounds like you're on a multitude of different organizations, so we'd love to chat with you further.
Okay, I'll get that. I do work with about 20 organizations, and as I said, many of them in Ontario, but some of them national, including the Council of Canadians. And so if we can help you, I'd be more than happy to work with you to draft something that they could give you feedback on. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Bob. Next question was Mo and then Phil. Mo?
Hi, thanks so much. I just want to thank the board for opening up questions at this AGM. That's really appreciated. And I want to thank the staff. It's been great to work over the years with all the staff that's there. Very responsive. One thing, so this specific question is for the board, because as a longstanding member, we just haven't heard as much from the board over the past few years. And we know that there's been a lot of internal reflections and strategic directions that have been put together. But I'm just wondering if the board could comment on what you're seeing as sort of a membership, addressing membership for Food Secure Canada moving forward, and that engagement of members into some of these strategic directions. So similar to the past question, I think there's a lot of interest in helping to support the board in your work, and just wondering if the board would be able to address that question of membership. I know it's been under review, but sort of where is that at? What are you seeing in terms of that for this coming year and support for the work from that broader membership? Thanks so much.
Thank you. I can certainly take a first stab at that. And I can assure you that the board has found that there is a lot of work to be done on the board, but in our sector. And there is absolute interest in getting more engagement, in adding committee work to the board. We are recognizing that we can't do it all ourselves, excuse me, nor should we, and that there is a vast amount of intellectual capital invested in our members that I think we can all serve better when we are aligned and kind of pulling in the same direction. Our board has, we had a new strategic plan, trying to implement that, trying to bring our board into kind of at the point where people are able to take action, has taken a bit of our time and priority away. But certainly over this next year, communication, we're changing the frequency of our board meetings. We're trying to be more collaborative and communicative. It's all on our agenda. So the time is right for this question, is I guess what I would say, because we are working on it and we are looking at it, so we can really be the best of everybody that is working together. Other board members, is there anything you would like to add?
Well, I was just gonna second that and say to you, we've come at a crossroads where we realize, and with the co-EDs and everything, now that everything's gelling better in terms of, because everybody was new, that there is a huge need for networking and engagement occurring with our membership. And you mentioned the strategic planning, and that was something that we had discussed, me and I had, and Olivia had discussed coming up shortly. So I think this is this perfect timing to, set out a discussion and a collaboration in the next few months, that we're going to aim for that.
Yeah. And ultimately, we're accountable to the members and the organizations. So we don't really have a choice in it. So hopefully that will give you some satisfaction that it's back on the agenda and will be something that you'll be seeing in the short future.
Thanks so much.
Okay, and Phil, you had a question.
Well, this actually follows very well on that previous question, because one of the ways of facilitating more collaboration and support amongst members, and certainly through networks, is the provincial and territorial network that you had. Is really a mechanism for us to bring voices from across the country and give the board a lot of support in terms of what's happening in various regions, but at the same time, other folks who can pitch in and maybe move us forward strategically. So just wondering if there's maybe a renewed ability to facilitate a provincial territorial group in the near future. I see Nettie says yes.
Well, it was yes to another. Yes, but there was another question about an in-person meeting and facilitating an in-person meeting with members. And I think, we had all been discussing that yes, that is something we want to do. And we do need to do by March.
Yeah, I think, Phil, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is figuring out how it's going to happen, like all the logistics of making it happen. We are and have always been, Canada is a connection of people, and it can't be done with any one group doing any one thing. So getting information on a regular basis, sharing information across the country on a regular basis has to become kind of our modus operandi, and it's just a way of factoring that in. Having board members who are able to put in the time and not putting the burden on our staff, who are already very busy with the regular operations of the projects they have undergoing. So I am in no way saying putting it off. I am saying it is something that we want to do. We just need to figure out how to do it with the resources and the people that we have.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, but just as my timekeeper role, we are at time, and we actually did a very good job of catching back up, but I want to make sure if folks do want to join for our SDG, that they do have a break in between.
I appreciate that, and it seems like the absolute perfect place to take a break. So thank you very much for everyone that has joined us today and for your contributions. The questions have been a highlight to keep reminding us as a board what we need to put our focus on. But I guess the last thing is for a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
I move to adjourn. Oh, Natalie moved, sorry. Natalie moved, I second.
Okay, and now do we have consensus? And as we're gaining consensus,
1, 2, 3,
just a
4.
reminder that we will encourage you to come back and join us for the presentation on the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals report. It will be an interesting exploration of those projects.
Janet, it's in 15 minutes, correct?
I'm just checking consensus
It
and then
is.
we're done. So
Yeah, we just need 2 more people for consensus.
2 more people for consensus, please.
Okay, 1 more person. Okay, we're good.
We're good. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. We will be starting back in 15 minutes, and we encourage you to come back and join us at 5:30.